For some people, it depends on who it impacts, to be honest. If it impacts an immigrant,
wait a second.
I don't care.
The guy's a felon. What the hell are we talking about? Why don't we just send him back to where he came from? He can litigate his
that's
issue there.
That's not the issue that we're debating.
Sure, it's the issue.
No, we're not. No, it's not.
I think we're also changing the subject, because deport him for
whatever
if he's deportable, crimes that he's committed. But the DHS secretary put his picture up and said he threatened to assassinate the president, which apparently he may not have done. I mean, it seems very much like another thing. I mean, look, we talked about, well, of course you do, because it's a great way to change the subject.
But
look, I mean, the question of whether...
Has a single person from the previous administration admitted any of the misinformation they put out about President Biden come out to say, you know what, we were wrong and that should be corrected? I don't think so. This administration, at a minimum, is saying, hey... You would fire that person. And if you didn't, you aren't a good business person. But I think you think you're a good business person, right?
It's always what's material and what isn't.
Hello, everybody. Guys, let's get right into this segment. Sometimes when I watch these, I wonder if any of these lies are ever going to catch up to the Republican voters and they realize that they're being lied to. And then I realize what's really happening here. We'll talk about that, and I want your comments on something. But let's get into this segment and we'll talk about it.
Tonight, Alternative Facts 2.0. After it was revealed that RFK Jr.'s MAGA report on children's health was riddled with mistakes and cited studies that don't exist, the White House essentially blamed it on Microsoft Word.
We have complete confidence in Secretary Kennedy and his team at HHS. I understand there were some formatting issues with the MAGA report that are being addressed, and the report will be updated, but it does not negate the substance of the report, which, as you know, is one of the most transformative health reports that has ever been released by the federal government and is backed on good science that has never been recognized by the federal government.
This is hardly the first time the White House has pushed literal fake news. Doge claimed it saved $8 billion on one contract. It was actually $8 million. Musk also claimed millions of dead people were claiming Social Security benefits. They were not. Levitt.
Guys, you know how much 8 million to 8 billion, how different that number is? That's 1,000 times different. 10 times the difference would be 80 million. 100 times difference would have been 800 million. 8 billion compared to 8, that's 1,000 times difference. These people just purposely lie.
Claimed the administration found a $50 million contract to fund condoms in Gaza. It had not. And tonight, we are learning that the claim by DHS that a migrant sent a letter threatening to kill Donald Trump isn't what it seems. Investigators actually believe the accused migrant did not write the letter, but instead was a victim of a setup by someone who was trying to get him deported. Despite that, Kristi Noem posted this guy's picture, sent out a press release, and news sites ran with the story. This is kind of a pattern of announce it first, check it later. But I mean, in the case of both this migrant, who, by the way, it seems might actually be the victim of a crime, that plus the MAGA report you talked about, the science being never recognized, that's because some of the science that they're citing literally does not exist. It's amazing.
You know, as a political consultant who's taught a lot of folks about spin, this whole thing about the formatting area is a whole new area for me to get into. I will also say that if you really look at it, there are news outlets tonight, just hours before we came on, Washington Post being one of them, who are saying that it is AI. And that's fine, AI is coming in and taking lots of folks' jobs. I get all of that, but they are saying it, not me. I wouldn't know AI if I saw it, but I'm telling you that there's a pattern here of what we've been seeing with not just this, and I think you're making the case about the pattern.
It's not a high school report. It's not a high school book report.
Never just blame Microsoft. Always go with Google Docs also. Because I always think you want diversification of blame, and I throw the AI in, think that's good. I mean, and you say, look, I had no idea how this got out there, but we're going to clean it up now. Brilliant, brilliant.
I mean, or you could say, we made a mistake, we're going to go back to the drawing board, make sure it's all on the up and up. I mean,
I think there's a bigger issue here. We're talking about citations that people use to verify science, and if you've ever written like, first of all, AI, students aren't even really allowed to use AI to do citations and formatting. Bingo. So they don't, the White House is breaking the rules that even high school students have to follow. But the reality is some of the science is bogus. That's why it doesn't exist. And I have no problem with some of the things that RFK wants to do with making children more healthy and getting sugar out of processed foods and red dye. But you can't make up science because it's a matter of life and death with people. So there will be reports that come out, and pharmaceutical companies will make decisions, healthcare companies will make decisions that will determine whether or not pregnant women can get vaccines now and whether it's covered. There are real life implications, and it's not just a formatting issue. It could actually cause somebody to lose their life.
On this immigration case, though, you said this person might be the victim here, and I'm not disputing that this letter might have been made up. This person's not a victim. Ramon Morales, age 54, has entered the United States illegally at least 9 times between 1998, since 1998. Criminal record including felony hit and run, criminal damage to property, disorderly conduct with a domestic abuse modifier. So even if this letter was made up, he should be deported immediately.
Let me explain.
Letter or no letter.
Let me explain what I was talking about. I mean, all of that may be true, but what I'm talking about, the reason that they're investigating this is because they believe that what might have happened here is that he was the victim of a separate crime, and that person, the alleged perpetrator, may have tried to set him up so that he was out of the country before he could testify in a case where he was the victim of a crime. So I'm not talking about his immigration status. I'm not talking about whether he was entitled to be here. It's just a question of why was he allegedly set up, and that's the scheme. So
it's the same thing. He's doing the same thing. He knows that. He's like, yeah, I know we lied about this, but look how bad of a person he is. It's the same thing they did with the Haitians are eating cats and dogs. Okay, that was a lie, but look, we have an immigration problem. Like, this is unbelievable. And this is the thing with these lies. They are always leaning one way, just like the conspiracies. It's always the ones on the left doing these just the most craziest things. And it's always against people that dislike, whether it be black people, brown people, immigrants, all of these different groups. They always have something scary or angering conspiracy about these groups, but never for the right wing. Because they're just angels and they couldn't possibly be involved in anything nefarious, right? Just take a look at the lies that they spew. Don't they seem to always target groups that Republicans hate? Immigrants, despised by Republicans. Oh, they eat cats and dogs and are violent gangbangers. Black people, despised by most Republicans. Oh, they are DEI hires and not possibly competent enough to do such a prestigious job, because of course they would believe that. How about Jewish people and their stupid conspiracy? They're controlling the world with mind control and space lasers and the Great Replacement theory and replacing white Americans. I mean, they believe some of the most craziest things, but can't see what's right in front. They're willing to believe that. And some of the most crazy things is that Democrats are eating children's blood, but can't see how the rich is robbing them blind, and that the reason for your problems are the rich. But they're willing to believe that, and I think I have an understanding as to why. And I think at some point you would think that it's gonna catch up to them, right? Literally, none of it does. They didn't learn anything after Sandy Hook and those lies, the January 6th lies that ended up with people killed. One conspiracy nut, a Republican, died for her stupidity. Ashley Babbitt. Guys, remember a few years ago, these imbeciles, I forgot what that movie is called, QAnon, were waiting at the Dallas airport for a few years back for the arrival of JFK. Yes, the one that's been passed away for decades and decades. Like, how do you not at some point snap out of it? The Republicans and all these pundits you see, whether online, Fox or Newsmax, they're lying to you. Fox, the biggest news channel still to this day on the left, paid $800 million for their lies about January 6th. Still, they're the biggest channel. I mean, it's...
So people
he's a
understand.
bad dude.
But here's my
Just so
question.
people understand.
This is another case, and we've talked about a few of them on this show, where you get an illegal immigrant who's in the country for a number of years, who's come in and out of the country, who has a long criminal record. And I think people are going to look at this story and say, wait a minute, why is this person here right now?
Yeah, I get
to
that.
even
But
be
I
set
feel
up?
like you are also changing the subject, because deport him for
Whatever
if he's
you just-
deportable, crimes that he's committed. But the DHS secretary put his picture up and said he threatened to assassinate the president, which apparently he may not have done. I mean, it seems very much like investigators do not believe he did that. It's just a question of, do we care whether or not the statements that public officials make are true or not, or does it just not matter?
I think for some people it depends on who it impacts, to be honest. If it impacts an immigrant,
Wait a
I don't
second.
care.
The guy's a felon. What the hell are we talking
But
about? Why don't we just send him back to where he came from?
That's
He
not
can
what,
litigate
but
his
that's
argument
not
there.
the issue that we're debating.
Sure, it's the issue.
No,
I
we're
think
not. No, it's not.
I think
the
we
issue
just-
that we're debating is whether or not
Yeah, we just
Kristi
went over
Noem
this in a second.
did what was right in terms of what she was saying could potentially be false. Misformatting is because it is false. There is a pattern of falsehood. Now, if the person did those things that you said, Scott,
it's in the CNN report.
fine, then they can be deported. It's not, but that's not the issue. The issue is that the woman who is leading the Department of Homeland Security, who you all are supporting, did something incorrectly.
The other thing, I mean,
wanna go
look,
back to
we
the
talked
felon.
about, well, of course you do, because
Yes,
it's a great way to
because you
change
can't
the
ever
subject.
acknowledge
Because
when
I'm
But
not
look,
wrong.
the White
I
House
mean,
did stuff wrong.
the question of whether this administration, I mean, I know we've talked a lot about the president and his challenges with the facts, but this goes beyond that at this point. I mean, Elon Musk, remember the whole condoms and Gaza thing? He was asked about that at the White House, and he was basically like, shrug. Listen.
How can we make sure that all the statements that you said were correct, so we can trust what you say?
Well, first of all, some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000.
And those incorrect statements were used to justify arguing that, you know, government officials were fraudulently sending condoms to Gaza, which they did not do. So there are consequences to the false statements that are made by people like Elon Musk, who at that time
American
had a lot of
people
power.
are like the kid, bored out of their mind. They don't care. He said, I makes mistakes. They should be corrected. I'm done with it. Who cares?
If you got a business report from one of your employees and it was a decision about a deal that you were going to make, and they had created some stock numbers about the deal and put it, and you sent it and you did the deal, you would fire that person.
You know,
and if you didn't, you aren't a good business person. But I
there's-
think you think you're a good business person, right?
It's always what's material and what isn't.
You lose
that's
money because of it.
No,
You
but
lose lives because
I don't
of
make
stuff like that.
decisions on a fractional, element. I try and make them on what's material and what isn't. Condoms in Gaza sound to me like, okay, what's material about that again? I mean, that's really why.
Well, they
at the
thought
end
it
of the
was
day-
material because they used it as a justification for claiming
Yes.
that
Shut
federal
it.
employees were defrauding the country intentionally in order to send
But he
money
said,
to
"I'm
other
gonna make
countries.
some
That
mistakes."
wasn't
It's a
happening. It
fringe
was
mistake.
used
I
as a justification, so it was
The kid
central
was
to the
yawning. He
argument.
got it right.
I want to concede the point on Noam because if it's wrong, what they said, if what she said is wrong, it should be corrected. And it should be corrected immediately. That's number one. Number two, has a single person from the previous administration admitted any of the misinformation they put out about President Biden come out to say, you know what, we were wrong and that should be corrected? I don't think so. This administration, at a minimum, is saying, hey, if we make a mistake, we'll correct it. That's a good attitude.
But they don't correct it.
That's a good
Actually,
attitude.
But the difference
They
is,
haven't, A, they haven't corrected it. B, they
Yes.
have not said anything that you just said. I mean, they haven't said that
Elon
they're
just
willing
said it.
to.
He said it should be corrected.
No, he said, I will
I
be.
make a mistake, it should be corrected.
He said, nobody's going to bat 100. Some of the things I say will be incorrect and should be corrected, but they are not correcting it. The public is correcting it.
I'm saying if a mistake is made and it's a serious mistake, it should be corrected. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
But my question is, you're holding them to this standard of wanting every single mistake corrected.
Where
is
I
the
agree
standard?
with you.
But I-
for the previous?
hold
I'm
Hold
just
on.
asking.
We have to go, but look, I agree with you. The Biden administration, the Trump administration,
Any
when they say
administration.
things, any administration, when they say things that are wrong, not only should it be corrected, but they should acknowledge
That's right.
that they made a mistake, which I think is a
I can't sleep tonight about the
distinction.
condoms. I gotta
All
tell
right.
you.
This is the thing, is that these conversations should go deeper. This is a reason why Republicans keep lying to you. It's because it keeps working, Papi. They know it works on you. They know that if they lie and they get caught, you don't even follow the news that will tell you the truth. I don't think most Republicans ever find out that the lies that they were told were lies. And they know that. Republicans know that. And I think more importantly, for some of the more nefarious things, And I hate to say it this way, but they know how you were raised, or most importantly, what you were taught to believe about different people. That's why Republicans freak out when they see people of color, I've said this before, as a superhero or something. Because they were taught they are supposed to be the bad guys, or the criminals, or something negative, not the superhero, right? That goes completely against what they've been trained, honestly, to believe. And like, it's the same thing with the DEI argument. They don't expect to see black and brown people in prominent positions because they were taught they weren't capable of such things. These people are violent, they're bad, they're whatever. I've said this before, a lot of these political issues, it's deep rooted, almost trauma issues that people have and that they've been taught. And the Republican Party, these online pundits, they use these deep rooted beliefs that are instilled in these Americans from generation to generations about different groups to scare them and keep them angry with lies about said groups that they know they fear. And it's really dangerous stuff. Like, we've seen what these kind of things can do. Even with the stupid eating the cats and dogs story. There were bomb threats at multiple elementary schools by a right-wing conspiracy nut. Because they believe everything they are told. As long as it's about, let's just be real, as long as it's about a type of people or group of people they've been taught to hate. It's the same thing with COVID. Like, countless people died. And it's because Republicans believe these stupid lies about vaccines and masks. Countless people died. You hear countless stories of people begging to have the vaccine in their deathbed, and it was just too late. But these people, they just don't care. They'll move on to the next line. They'll know you forget. And this, as long as they can keep you hating the other side and scaring you or keeping you angry with some lie about the other side, they know that you'll stay loyal and vote for them. I mean, guys, look what happened to Ashley Babbitt on January 6th. You think Republicans give a F that she passed away? Like, she got murked for believing these lies. You think Trump, any of these people care? They really care? No, of course not. They still continue with lies about that same day, actually. Of course they don't care. Like, at some point, how do you not snap out of it, right? Like, in any other context, and I know, guys, I'm rambling, but some of this stuff is just like, at some point, like, in no other context would this work. If a friend kept lying to you about stuff, and you keep finding out they're lying to you, are you just going to keep believing them? Guys out there, if you're dating a girl, she's lying to you about a bunch of things, you're going to keep believing her? You're going to keep dating her? It's the same thing with voters. They keep lying to you about these different things. What are you waiting for? The next one's going to be true? At what point do you break up with them? Honestly, guys, let me know in the comments. I'm kind of... are they going to ever snap out of this? I think some of these things are just so deep-rooted in their beliefs that I don't think for a lot of people, they'll ever snap out of it, to be honest. For a lot of them. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about all this. Sorry for the ranting. Please leave a like, subscribe if you aren't. It really helps the channel. And I'll catch you in the next one.